Yes, good afternoon. So today we have two novels for discussion. The first is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and another is Paraja. A Tale of Two Cities is actually a historical novel based on French Revolution. And for the first time, as far as I am concerned, I'm looking at a novel which is named after a community, named after a tribe, which is Paraja. So I believe that you might also not have read novels with see such titles in which the whole community is represented, the whole community or group of people, their name or their identity is put as the heading of the novel, title of the novel. See, we are in book block 2. Today we'll be discussing block 2 and 5. So be ready with them. The first block, the second block, block 2, discusses Charles Dickens's novel A Tale of Two Cities. So I'll be beginning my discussion with with the summary of this particular novel as such. We'll be going chapter by chapter. The book is divided into 3 volumes. It exists in 3 volumes, and all the 3 volumes discuss various aspects of the life of people who are affected by French Revolution. See, the background to this novel, to this story that is there in this novel is the French Revolution. People are affected by French Revolution, how they are affected, and what are the consequences they have to phase as part of becoming a part of the French Revolution or participating in the French Revolution. So those are the things that we are going to discuss under this novel. See, the novel is about French Revolution and the lives of people affected by it. It takes place over a period of 17 years. The novel covers a period of 17 years, that is from 1775 to 1792. So these are the 17 years covered by the novel. And this novel can also be called as a Christian allegory about sacrifice and spiritual redemption. So now, see, the injustice which people had to face during the French Revolution and the way they were punished as they took part in the revolution, all these things we are going to look at in this particular novel. So, it's a historical novel, as I told you. Charles Dickens has written 14 novels and numerous other works. The novel is written in the Victorian age, the age in which Queen Victoria ruled over England. And it was an age of social change, drastic social change. It was marked by dates of 2 reform bills. The Reform Bill which came out in 1832 and 1867. See, and there were active campaigns of reforms going on in England during the period. And Charles Dickens also was an active campaigner during the reforms. And he found it the only way of staving off violent social upheavals like revolution. So keeping away from revolution, what one can do is one can bring in reforms. This was the notion which Charles Dickens had about reformation and about revolution. So he wanted to reform the society. He wanted to take part actively in the reforms in order to avoid revolution. So here we are into this particular novel. The novel famously begins with the lines, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity." So thus goes the beginning of the novel, the first few lines of the novel. Very famous lines. So you might be asked in your competitive exams on, see, what is the first line of the novel, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. So you can just by heart those lines and keep them in mind. And the lines that we have just read out, they actually mirror, showcase what was there, what was the condition of England during those days? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. So we already know Victorian era is an era of dilemma. It is an era of confusion. People in England, they are torn between religion and science. So what to believe, whether they have to believe what religion says, what Bible says, or what Charles Darwin wrote about human origin in his Origin of Species. So what to believe was the question during those days, and Charles Dickens has very clearly put down the dilemma, the confusion in the first few lines of this novel, very popular lines. See, famous opening lines these are: it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. So, this is how the novel begins, telling you the condition in which England was during the period in which this novel is written. So, into the novel now. See, the novel has, as I told you, 3 parts or 3 volumes. Book 1, see, in your textbook it is given as chapter summary. Book 1, chapter 1 to 4 have been summarized first in page number 14. So, we'll be looking at things in this similar manner. Since this is a long novel, just a paraphrase or just a summary, a small summary will not do. That is why I would also like to go chapter by chapter. So the page number 14 discusses book 1, chapter 1 to 4. See, we have one Dr. Menet, who was a French physician and who was unjustly imprisoned in France. See, he was imprisoned in a terrible prison in France, which is the Bastille prison, and he was imprisoned for over 18 years. See, 18 years of imprisonment to a man who actually did not commit any kind of crime. What might be the changes that this man might have undergone due to this unjust imprisonment? So keep that in mind. The story revolves around 2 places. It has the settings of England and France. The 2 tales, the 2 cities discussed in the novel, the title of the novel are England and France. So the story moves from England to France and from France to England. So here we have Dr. Menet, a physician, a French physician who is imprisoned, unjustly imprisoned in Bastille for over 18 years now. He has a daughter named Lucy. See, his daughter doesn't know that the father is alive. She feels that she is an orphan and she is looked after by her aunt. See, we have another character named Jarvis Lorry. Jarvis Lorry is actually given the charge to take Lucy to her father to make an arrangement of a meeting between the father and his daughter. So he brings back Dr. Menet from imprisonment. After 18 years of imprisonment, the man is released, Dr. Menet is released, and he is brought back by a person named Jarvis Lorry. And Jarvis Lorry also arranges a meeting between Dr. Menet and his daughter Lucy. So after his release, he is taken to the household of the Defarges, Mr. and Mrs. Defarge, who run a wine shop. So to this place, Dr. Menet is taken after he is released from prison, and there a meeting takes place between the daughter and the father after 17 or 18 years of separation. So the daughter doesn't even know that the father was alive. See, but due to the 18 years of imprisonment, this man has lost his mental balance. He is not recognizing his daughter. He is not talking to her. He is simply always sitting busy with his shoemaking, which he used to do in the prison as well. So he is a torn man now. He does not have a mental stability. He does not recognize his daughter, but he simply busies himself with the act of shoemaking, the one that he always did in the prison. Prisonil എങ്ങനെയാണോ ഷൂസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്, അതേപോലെ ഇവിടെ ഒരു കോബ്ലർ എന്ന രീതിയിൽ കോബ്ലറിന്റെ ടൂൾസ് ഉപയോഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് മിസ്റ്റർ ആൻഡ് മിസ്സസ് ഡിഫാർജയുടെ വീട്ടിൽ അവരുടെ ഷോപ്പിന് മുകളിലത്തെ നിലയിലുള്ള താമസ സ്ഥലത്തിൽ താമസിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഷൂ മേക്കിംഗ് ആണ് ആള് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഹി മേക്സ് ഷൂസ് ആസ് ഹി ഡിഡ് ഇൻ ദ പ്രിസൺ ആൻഡ് ഹി ഡസന്റ് ഈവൻ ഹാവ് a recognition towards his father, towards his daughter. Sorry, daughter is Lucy. So we see these two, the father and the daughter relationship out here. And see, he was wrongly accused of having some involvement in French Revolution, and he was imprisoned for 18 years in Bastille, a very terrible kind of a prison in France, where he was imprisoned for over 18 years. See, this is the summary of the first 4 chapters. Then the action moves on to, in book 1, chapter 5 and 6, the action moves on to the suburb of Paris, where Miss Dr. Manette is actually sheltered by the Defarges. See, in the Defarges household, he makes shoes using the cobbler's tools and a bench, the similar occupation that he did in his prison. See, and then Mr. Lorry, Dr. Manette and Lucy, they leave France without delay. They want to leave France without delay, and soon they embark on their journey to London. After having a meeting at the Defarges, they wish to leave the place. They wish to leave France and move towards London. So they start their journey by the end of chapter 5 and 6. The next 2 chapters, see the next book, the second book is titled The Golden Thread. Now these 3 people, they have headed for Paris. They are now in Paris, living in London. And see, the book 2 is given the title Golden Thread. What comes in this section is a period of 9 years. A period of 9 years is covered in this particular book 2. See, the story begins with the year 1780 here. In the second book, the story begins with the year 1780, that is 5 years after Dr. Manette's release. They even narrated in this section, they cover a period of 9 years. The narrative begins at a point 5 years after the release of Dr. Manette and ends with the onset of the revolution and Charles Darnay's return to France soon after. So we have in this particular book, in the second book, in the first 6 chapters, we have Tellson's Bank, where Mr. Lorry is employed. He is describing it as an old-fashioned place. In this respect, like in England itself, he is actually describing his bank as an old-fashioned place. And there is another character, Jerry Cruncher, who is employed at Tellson's as an odd job man and porter. Cruncher's house life is described. His wife, who is a hard-working woman but meek. See, Jerry scolds him again and again for praying for him. So Jerry is a person employed at Tellson's Bank, where Mr. Lorry is also working. Mr. Lorry was the person who helped the reunion between Lucy and her father, Dr. Manette. So they are employed at Tellson's Bank, and Jerry is a kind of a person who scolds his hardworking wife for praying for him. And in the second chapter of book 2, you have another character being introduced, who is Charles Darnay. Charles Darnay is a French immigrant who has come all the way from France, and he is working as a tutor, a French tutor. He teaches French to the people there. See, Charles Darnay, he is tried for treason at the Old Bailey. Old Bailey is a court, and here he is tried for treason. Treason എന്താണ്? രാജ്യദ്രോഹമാണ്, ചതിയാണ്, വഞ്ചനയാണ് രാജ്യത്തോട്. അപ്പൊ അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് എന്താ പറയാ, അറസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ട് അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് കോടതി കയറി ഇറങ്ങുന്ന ചാൾസ് ഡാർനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇനി പരിചയപ്പെടാൻ പോകുന്നത്. See, he is tried for committing treason. He is tried for treason at Old Bailey. And he is described as a young man of 25, well grown and well looking. He is later seen to be falling in love with Dr. Menet's daughter, Lucy. So, while he was tried in public, there were many people who spoke against him, who said that they had witnessed him committing crimes. See, among them were Dr. Menet and his daughter too. Among the witnesses were Dr. Menet and his daughter also. So this is how Darnay attracts towards Lucy Menet. Darnay has an attraction towards Lucy Menet. And in the chapter 3 of book 2, we have the end of a long and suspenseful trial. Darnay is acquitted. And Darnay is acquitted because of Sidney Carton. Sidney Carton is a man who looks almost alike. See, they resemble each other. They resemble each other as twins. So Sidney Carter is another character who is introduced in chapter 3 of book 2. He is a person who looks similar to Charles Darnay. He was an assistant to the defense attorney, and he resembles Charles Darnay, and that is why when a trial is being held against Charles Darnay, Sidney Carton comes to his help, and all the witnesses who were against Darnay, they have a lot of confusion regarding the criminal or the culprit. So Sidney Carton is able to save Charles Darnay from punishment because they are look alike. They look alike. They resemble each other as twins. They are not twins, but they resemble each other. So Charles Darnay was recalled to life, or he was saved from imprisonment because of the interference of Sidney Carton during the trial. Trial നടക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് സിഡ്നി കാർട്ടൺ ചാൾസ് ഡാർനെ സംരക്ഷിക്കുന്നു, ചാൾസ് ഡാർനെയെ സേവ് ചെയ്യുന്നു, because they look alike. The witnesses cannot exactly point out the real criminal. അപ്പൊ ആരാണ് സാക്ഷികൾക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ആരാണോ കുറ്റം ചെയ്തത് എന്ന് തിരിച്ചറിയാൻ പറ്റാതെ പോകുന്ന ഒരു അവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നു കാര്യങ്ങൾ. അങ്ങനെ ചാൾസ് ഡാർനെ, he is released. He is not imprisoned. He is recalled to life, just as Jerry says. See, and then chapter 4, we have chapter 4 in which Dr. Menet, after 5 years of his release, has recovered. See, I told you that he had a mental imbalance. He could not recognize his daughter. He was not able to recognize people around him. But now his health has been recovered. Only a slight shadow of the Bassetile prison, as I told you, a very terror-stricken prison. Only a shadow of the memories of the prison comes to Dr. Menet. See, otherwise he is all right. He is normal. He has recovered his mental balance. See, and then Lucy is the person who saved her father. Her role in saving him is described by the metaphor golden thread. The section, as I told you, is mentioned as golden thread. So she is the golden thread that knits or brings back her father from his mentally disturbed condition, from his mentally imbalanced condition to a normal life. So she is the golden thread. So Lucy connects the earliest part of Dr. Menet's life with the present. She is able to connect the life of her father from his past to the present. That is why she is known as the golden thread. See, now both are living happily, and See, Charles Darnay as well as Sydney Carton both have fallen in love for Lucy. Both actually propose her, but it is Charles Darnay's proposal that Lucy accepts. See, but Sydney Carton realizes, see, why he is not liked by Lucy, because he is a drunkard, he is an irresponsible fellow, he is a drunkard. And soon he realizes why Lucy doesn't love him. That is why he promises her that he will be of help to her whenever she needs. എപ്പോഴാണോ സഹായം ആവശ്യം എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ആ സമയത്ത് സഹായിക്കാൻ ഞാൻ എത്തുമെന്ന് പ്രോമിസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് സിഡ്നി കാർട്ടൺ അല്ല അവരെ വിട്ടു പോകുന്നത്, അവരുടെ ആ ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് നിന്ന് സ്ഥലം മാറി പോകുന്നത്. See, when Carton returns home in the early hours of the morning, he perceives the darkness as symbolic of the waste forces within him. So he knows that he has waste forces within him. He is referred to as Jackal. So he is not a suitable person to marry Lucy because he is a drunkard and an irresponsible fellow. See, and in chapter 6, we are introduced in this chapter to Dr. Mennet's quiet and pleasant home in Soho, a district in London. So they are now in Dr. Mennet's home in the place called Soho, which is a district in London. And there is Miss Prose, who had been looking after Lucy, Lucy's devoted companion. And we have Mr. Lorry, who also is a great friend of Dr. Mennet. All these people are now living together in London in the house at Soho, at a district in London. See, Dr. Mennet's health conditions have improved. And Lucy expresses a painful thought to her visitors that the echoes of street sounds are footsteps of the people who are come into my life and my father's. That means, see, all these years they had lived a life of separation, the daughter and the father. That is why when she lives with her father in a peaceful atmosphere at Soho, a district in London, she feels that every visitor, the sounds, the footsteps of every visitor is actually the sounds of the footsteps of people who are coming into our life, my father's and my life. So now we have Dr. Mennet, who is living happily in London with his daughter. They are accompanied by Miss Prose and Mr. Lorry, who are devoted friends of the Mennets. So Mennets in the കൂട്ടുകാരായിട്ടില്ല, അങ്ങേയറ്റം നല്ല സൗഹൃദം സ്ഥാപിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള രണ്ട് കൂട്ടരാണ്. മിസ് പ്രോസ്, who had been looking after Lucy in her father's absence, in her mother's death, and Mr. Lorry is also a friend of Dr. Mennet. So chapter 6 ends with a very happy note of these two people, of all these people living together at Soho. In book 2, chapter 7 to 9, what is being discussed? The action moves back to Paris, this time to the world of the aristocracy. See, there is a world of aristocracy. We have a person named Evermont, Marquis de Evermont. They are actually twins. There are twins in the family, in this aristocratic family. And Darnay also is a member of this aristocratic family. He was also a member of this aristocratic family, but he later dismisses all his relationship with this aristocratic family. He no more wishes to have their name with his name attached. That is why he leaves. He renounces his name, his title and his class. Aristocratic ഫാമിലിയിൽ ബിലോങ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആളായിരുന്നു ഡാർനെ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, ചാൾസ് ഡാർനെ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. But what happens is he leaves this aristocratic life. He doesn't want all the comforts and the name of the family. He gives away, renounces the name of his family, the title and his class. അപ്പൊ തറവാട് വീട്ട് തറവാട്ട് പേരൊക്കെ ഉപേക്ഷിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഡാർനെ പാരീസിൽ നിന്ന് ഫ്രാൻസിലേക്ക് പോവാണ്. ഫ്രാൻസിൽ അയാൾ ഒരു ഫ്രഞ്ച് ട്യൂട്ടർ ആയിട്ടാണ് പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അവിടെ വെച്ചാണ് അയാൾ ലൂസിയെ മിസ്റ്റർ മാനറ്റിനൊക്കെ ഡോക്ടർ മാനറ്റിനൊക്കെ പരിചയപ്പെടുന്നത്. So now we have, see, this man who renounces his name and his title and class. He doesn't like the greed and cruelty of the aristocracy, and he doesn't want to inherit anything from them. That is why he leaves Paris to lead a decent life as a tutor of French. So he later marries Lucy and they have a child. So in book 2, 7 to 9, we see the relationship between Charles Darnay and his aristocratic family lineage. See, there are the Evermont twins, who were very cruel, very cruel, so cruel that one day they actually raped a girl. And when this rape was discovered, it was discovered by Dr. Menet. And when this rape was discovered, Dr. Menet was actually sent to prison unjustly, stating that he was a part of the French Revolution. So Dr. Menet ആണ് ശരിക്കും ഈ ഒരു റേപ്പ് കേസിന്റെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ജനങ്ങളോട് പറയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് മുതിരുന്ന ഒരാള്. He wants to talk about this rape which is committed by Marquis, the twins, the Evermont twins. But soon he is imprisoned for having some connection with the French Revolution, and he had to stay in the prison for over 18 years, as I told you. So in chapter 10, it is titled Two Promises. Charles Darnay's modest profession as a teacher of French in London and Cambridge is described. He falls in love with Lucy Menet. He meets Dr. Menet to seek his permission to quote her, and he analyzes the unique relationship between the father and the daughter. So two promises are demanded and made in this chapter. Darnay requests Miss Dr. Menet to say nothing against him if Lucy should ever confide her love for him. So Dr. Menet is being asked by Charles Darnay to promise that he will never go against Charles Darnay when Lucy starts loving him. But Lucy അയാളെ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു തുടങ്ങിയാല് അച്ഛൻ മകളുടെ ഇഷ്ടത്തിന് എതിരെ നിൽക്കത്തില്ല എന്ന പ്രോമിസ് ഡോക്ടർ മെനറ്റിന്റെ അടുത്ത് ചാൾസ് ഡാർനെ ചോദിക്കുന്നതായിട്ടില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു പ്രോമിസ് ഈ ഒരു ചാപ്റ്ററിൽ നൽകപ്പെടുന്നുണ്ട്. There is yet another promise. See, he in turn makes promise that he will only tell him when or if their marriage should take place. So he promises that, see, the next time they'll be talking about their marriage. So Charles Darnay's identity is not revealed to Lucy. Dr. Menet promises that he will not reveal Charles Darnay's identity to Lucy, that he belongs to an aristocratic Evermont family. Evermont nanu family ide per. See, now in chapter 11, there is one Stryver who confides to Carton his decision to propose marriage to Lucy. See, Stryver is also a man who is after Lucy, who wants to propose Lucy, but that is something comical because he is not a person suitable for Lucy's character. Then chapter 12 is titled The Fellow of Delicacy, wherein Mr. Lorry advises Stryver against proposing. Mr. Lorry asks Stryver not to propose Lucy. Stryver saves face by pretending to have lost interest in Lucy himself. So he saves his face by agreeing not to propose Lucy under the advice of Mr. Lorry, the family friend of the Menets. The fellow of no delicacy is Sydney Carton. He also proposes Lucy and she gently rejects him. She doesn't like him because he is a drunkard and an irresponsible fellow. See, and then in the 14th chapter, it begins with a crowd scene. There is a crowd which attacks a funeral procession since the dead man is rumored to be a spy. ഫ്രഞ്ച് റെവല്യൂഷന്റെ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് ആണ് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ സ്പൈ വർക്കൊക്കെ നടത്തുന്ന ആളാണ് മരിച്ച വ്യക്തി എന്ന് കരുതിയിട്ട് ഫ്യൂണറൽ സെറിമണിക്കിടയിൽ ക്രൗഡ് ബഹളം കൂട്ടുവാണ്. ഒരുപാട് ജനക്കൂട്ടം ബഹളം കൂട്ടിക്കൊണ്ട് ആ ഒരു ഫ്യൂണറൽ സെറിമണിയെ അലങ്കോലപ്പെടുത്താൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നതായിട്ടാണ് കാണുന്നത്. See, and then we have Jerry Cruncher, who worked in the bank with Mr. Lorry. Jerry Cruncher and his son, they also join the crowd. They attend the burial. See, and Cruncher sets off in the secretly in the dead of night, followed by his curious son and attended by two other friends to steal the corpse of the spy. So even during the it's the time of French Revolution. During this time, even the dead body of the spy is not spared. So they want to destroy the dead body of the spy. That is why they steal the corpse of spy. The spy who was dead, the dead body of the spy. The dead person is named Roger Cly. See, when they try to steal the corpse, they find that the grave is empty, and young Jerry, that is Jerry's son, runs away from the place. He is frightened because the corpse is empty. The grave is empty. See, and Crunches takes out this disappointment on his wife by saying that you are always praying. Jerry explains to his son that a resurrection man is a tradesman whose goods is a branch of scientific goods. That is, see, here is a resurrection man, a man who has after death, he has resurrected. So that kind of a story is being made up by Jerry in order to explain to his son. So we have book 2, chapter 15 and 16, in which the setting is Defarge's wine shop. I told you the Defarge's, Mr. and Mrs. Defarge, they are working, they have their wine shop, and it was at the top story of this wine shop that they sheltered Dr. Menet soon after his release from prison. So we have in chapter 15 and 16 of book 2, we have these people. A setting is the wine shop. See, it begins with a road mender's eyewitness account of the execution of a man called Gaspard, as narrated to Defarge and his friends. Gaspard, a man, was executed. So someone is narrating the execution of this man to the Defarge family and friends. See, and Gaspard, in fact, is the man whose son has been run over by the Marquis carriage. See, there is a story, a flashback where Marquis's carriage had killed Gaspard's son. So these are minor characters. We do not have to worry about them, but we need to keep in mind the response of the Defarge family on listening to this narration. See, Mademoiselle Defarge, that is Lady Defarge, who is standing in the shadows. She listens to the whole story. She is always busy knitting. This act of knitting is very important because, see, she is an active member in the French Revolution. She is actively participating in the French Revolution, and her knitting is actually very important with regard to this novel. See, there are spies all around the house. There are people who secretly visit Mademoiselle Defarge, and they plan things for the revolution. See, and Mademoiselle Defarge is none other than the sister of the girl who was raped by the Evermond twins, the aristocratic family of the Evermonds. The twins belonging to the Evermond family, they had raped the sister of Mademoiselle Defarge. Madame Soul means lady, Lady Defarge, Mrs. Defarge. So she is having a revenge motive against the Evermont family. She knows that Charles is also a member of the Evermont family. See, Defarge and his wife have faith in a people's revolution in France. They are faithful. They believe in the cause of the French Revolution. And they are also, especially Mrs. Defarge is someone who is who is keen on taking revenge upon the Evermont family, the Evermont clan as such. See, then we have, see, Defarge shows a resemblance of feeling for his former master, who is Dr. Menet, when he expresses the hope that his son-in-law will never venture into post-revolutionary France. So they are talking about Charles Darnay, whom they believe that he will never enter the revolutionary, post-revolutionary France. See, and Mademoiselle Defarge is more passionately holds that Darnay's fate should have nothing to do with their personal feelings for Dr. Menet. So they are indebted to, they love their old master, Dr. Menet, but at the same time they hold a kind of revenge for Charles Darnay. That is why she says that their love for, their personal feelings for Dr. Menet should not in anyhow change their their revenge towards Darnay. So Darnay's fate will not be changed because of their personal feelings for their earlier master, who is Dr. Menet. So they secretly hold a kind of a revenge towards Charles Darnay, because Charles Darnay belongs to the Evermont family. The family, the twins of this family, they had raped Mademoiselle Defarge's sister. So that is the reason for this revenge motive that she carries or she has. So she is someone who is seen knitting. She is an able organizer of the revolution, an able leader of the revolution. Almost always, several visitors come to their wine shop in order to seek advice from her, in order to tell her further plans about the French Revolution. So she is a major character in this novel, remember that. And her knitting, her act of knitting is also very important. So this is how book 2, chapter 15 and 16 go. Then we have book 2, chapter 17 to 20, in which we see the night of Lucy's wedding. On the night before Lucy's wedding, Dr. Menet accepts her reassurances of continuing love and duty wholeheartedly. That is, she has love and duty. She is duty bounded towards her father. So all these reassurances are given by her to her father, and Dr. Menet accepts them. And he recalls his present days and the contrast of his present happiness on his daughter's wedding. So, who are the people who are going to get married? It is Lucy Menet and Charles Darnay. Chapter 18, we see Charles Darnay. See, they and Lucy, they leave for their honeymoon. And Dr. Menet breaks down as a result of Charles Darnay's disclosure of him. See, Charles Darnay had actually disclosed his identity to Dr. Menet, and that is why he feels upset. He breaks down. That means he is disappointed on knowing that Charles Darnay belongs to the aristocratic family. See, and he again goes back to his mentally imbalanced state, and he starts mending shoes. His old pastime of making shoes. So he is so mentally disturbed that he starts mending shoes like he did in the prison of Bastille. See, and Mr. Lorry and Miss Prose, when they come to know about Charles Darnay's disclosure of his identity belonging to the Evermont family, Charles Darnay, he actually belonged to the Evermont family, and this is what makes Mr. Dr. Mennett upset. He loses his mental balance and he goes back to his pastime of making shoes. And this truth about Charles Darnay also disappoints Mr. Lorry and Miss Prose, who are the family friends of Dr. Mennett and his daughter. See, and in chapter 19, it is titled An Opinion. See, Dr. Mennett had been 9 days in this condition and he recovers to his friend's amazement after 9 days. See, at Mr. Lorry's urging, he analyzes his condition, expresses his confidence that such a relapse will not occur again. This relapse of going back to an unstable mental condition, such a thing will not happen again. This reassurance is given to Lorry by Dr. Mennett. See, and then we have the two people, they are destroying all the workbench and the tools. So he gives away his workbench and tools to Mr. Lorry and Miss Prose, who destroy them. And they also feel guilty over destroying these things because these things are a kind of consolation to Dr. Mennett in his grief. അവരുടെ പണി സാധനങ്ങൾ, പണി ആയുധങ്ങൾ എപ്പോഴും മെന്റലി ഇംബാലൻസ്ഡ് ആയിട്ടില്ല. ഡോക്ടർ മെനറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്താണ്? ഹി ആക്ച്വലി മെൻസ് ഷൂസ്, ചെരുപ്പ് കുത്തിയായി മാറുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഈ ചെരുപ്പ് കുത്തിയായിട്ട് മാറുമ്പോൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ബെഞ്ച് ആയാലും ശരി, മറ്റായുധങ്ങളായാലും ശരി, അതെല്ലാം തന്നെ മിസ്റ്റർ ലോറിയും മിസ് പ്രോസും കൂടി ഡിസ്ട്രോയ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. പക്ഷെ അവർക്ക് എപ്പോഴും ഒരു കുറ്റബോധമുണ്ട്. ബിക്കോസ് these tools are a sort of consolation for Dr. Mennett when he is in his unstable mental condition. In the next few chapters, book 2, chapter 21 to 24, we have the action moving rapidly back and forth from England and France. It begins in England with an evocation of the peace and bliss that envelops Lucy's home. So it is soon after Lucy and Charles Darnay's marriage. There is a peaceful bliss that envelops Lucy's home. They are in love with each other. They are in their honeymoon trip. That is why there is a peaceful and very happy atmosphere in London, in England. See, then the action shifts to France. And there is a first-hand account of the French Revolution given in the text. See, and then Defarge finds the cell where Dr. Mennett had been imprisoned and finds a hidden document there. So Defarge somehow is able to reach the cell in the prison where Dr. Mennett was imprisoned unjustly for 18 years. And he finds a hidden document there, which is actually a letter. See, and in that letter, he is disclosing the crime, the rape committed by the Evermont family, and how he was unjustly, he was imprisoned, having no role to play in the French Revolution. Even though he did not have any role to play in the French Revolution, he was imprisoned for a wrong cause because he had suspected the Evermont. He had actually known the secret of the rape of the girl by Evermont twins. So this letter, in which Dr. Mennett had written everything about the rape that he had witnessed, the killing and the rape, the Paris killing, everything. So everything is written in the letter, and the letter falls into the hands of Defarge when he goes to the cell in which Dr. Menet was imprisoned for 18 years. So this is book 2, chapter 21 to 24. Now, quickly we are moving on to the next book, the third book, in which, see, all the contents of the letter is revealed by Defarge to his wife. See, book 3 discusses Darnay's arrival in Paris, arrival of Dr. Menet and Lucy in search of him, and Dr. Menet's efforts on his behalf, his release and immediate re-arrest. So Charles Darnay is released for a while and then he is again imprisoned, immediately imprisoned. See, who is behind the imprisonment of Charles Darnay? It is none other than Mademoiselle Defarge, who has a revenge motive against him. So, Charles Darnay ജയിലിൽ അകപ്പെടുത്തുന്നതും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ പിന്നീട് ഡോക്ടർ മെനറ്റ് അയാളെ ജയിൽ മോചിതനാക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. പിന്നീട് വീണ്ടും ചാൾസ് ഡാർണയെ ജയിലിൽ അകപ്പെടുത്തുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഡിഫാർജെ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന മാഡമസോൾ ഡിഫാർജെ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ ലേഡിയാണ്. ബിക്കോസ് Charles Darnay belongs to the Evermont family. She knows this truth now. See, see the crimes, the rape and the murder of a peasant girl and her family, which is committed by the Evermont brothers. See, all these are the reasons why she holds a kind of revenge against Charles Darnay, and that is why Charles Darnay is imprisoned. And then here we have Sidney Carton, who plots his rescue. Sidney Carton comes in. As I told you, he looks similar to Charles Darnay. He is someone who has similar physical features just as Charles Darnay, and he rescues him right on time from the prison. But he is again caught by the people of Mademoiselle Defarge. And then the truth is revealed. See, Sidney Carton plots his rescue by substituting himself in Darnay's place in the prison because they look alike. He substitutes himself for Charles Darnay and rescues him. See, next time when the trial takes place against Charles Darnay, Sidney Carton comes in front of the court, or he produces himself before the court, and people get confused about their identity, who the real criminal is, and thus he saves Charles Darnay for the second time. Charles Darnay for the second time. So, as promised, he had promised Lucy that he would be of help. He would come to be of help to Lucy at any time. So, he had kept his promise. He is somebody who had kept his promise. He is a man of words, though he is a drunkard and an irresponsible fellow. So these are the incidents that take place in book 3. In book 3, chapter 1 to 6, we see Charles Darnay entering Paris, and he is soon arrested. And who is behind the arrest of Charles Darnay? It is none other than Mademoiselle Defarge. See, he is an ex-aristocrat and an emigre. Darnay has no rights over the properties of the Evermont family. Lucy and her family also arrive in France, and Darnay is rescued by his father-in-law, Dr. Menet. Since Dr. Menet has a goodwill of the revolution, of the French Revolution, people who are participating in the French Revolution, because he is in good terms with the revolutionists, he is able to help Darnay escape from prison. And how does he help him? By substituting Sidney Carton in place of Charles Darnay. See, and in book 3, chapter 7 to 10, we have Dr. Menet successfully he stakes his very high reputation among the revolutionaries to procure Darnay's release. He is able to release Darnay with the help of his image among the revolutionists, among the French revolutionists. And Darnay he has a reunion with his family, with his wife Lucy and his child, but he is re-arrested in the name of Republic by a delegation of citizens. He is again arrested by a delegation of citizens. This time he is not taken to the prison, he is taken to a secret place. See, and then the story goes on as to how Sidney Carton is able to find him and he is able to rescue him. See, his case is taken to the court, a trial is held, and Sidney Carton appears right in front of the members of the court, and he is able to create a confusion in terms of the identity of the real criminal. So he comes up as a hero, somebody who rescues Charles Darnay from imprisonment and punishment. See, Darnay is put to trial, and what happens is, as I told you, Sidney Carton comes to his rescue. See, and then Dr. Menet's evidences absolutely damns his son-in-law. See, I told you about the letter that was found in the cell, in the prison cell of Dr. Menet, where he lived for over 18 years. This letter was found by Defarge and he produced it before the court during the trial. And it was Dr. Menet who had, knowingly or unknowingly, who had been behind the ruin of his son-in-law, behind the arrest of his son-in-law. See, and then we have this identity of the woman who was all behind it, that the lady behind the arrest of Charles Darnay is none other than Mademoiselle Defarge, who is the sister of the person, of the girl who was brutally raped by the Evermont twins, the twins belonging to the aristocratic family, of which Charles Darnay is also a member. So all these things are revealed towards the end of the story. And Charles Darnay is actually saved by Sidney Carton. So this is how the story ends, or the novel ends. So there is a climax in chapter 11 to 15. In chapter 11 to 15, we have Lucy bidding farewell to her husband after the trial. There is no hope that he will be saved, but soon Sidney Carton helps Charles Darnay and he is rescued. So this is how the whole story ends. So Sidney Carton becomes a hero-like figure who was an irresponsible person, a drunkard, but he turns out to be a real hero in saving Charles Darnay from imprisonment and punishment. So this is how the novel ends. So this is the story of the novel, one of the famous novels by Charles Dickens, a historical novel because it has the background of the French Revolution, how people are affected by by their participation in the French Revolution. All these things are described in the novel. So the novel is A Tale of Two Cities. The two cities in mention are England and France. Remember the beginning of the story. which talks about the condition of England during the Victorian era. So all these things you have to keep in mind. You have to keep in mind the women characters in the novel, how actively they are a part of the French Revolution, especially Mademoiselle Defarge. She is at the same time an active member of the revolution, and she is also having personal revenge motive against the Beaumont family. So remember, she is such a strong character in the novel. So you have to keep that in mind. The other important themes that the novel deals with, one of course is the participation in the French Revolution, another is the family and the society, how family bonding is there, and how the society looks at this family bonding. So all these things are discussed in the novel, how women have been participating in the French Revolution, the major women characters in the novel. You might be asked a question, an essay question on the major women characters in the novel, who are none other than Lucy Manet and Mademoiselle Defarge. So all these things, how the novel has direct connections with French Revolution, everything can be asked as questions, as essay questions. So you know that only essays are there from this paper. I believe so. Please go through the previous year question papers and look at the questions which recur, which come repeated again and again, so that you get some idea about what are the questions usually asked from this particular novel, A Tale of Two Cities. We have already gone through two other novels yesterday, and we are into the fourth novel today. The fourth novel is Paraja. See, this is a novel, the only novel which is not originally written in English. The only novel in your syllabus which is not originally written in English. See, it is originally written in Oriya. It's an Oriya novel and it was translated into English. The novelist is Gopinath Mohanty. Gopinath Mohanty. His Oriya novel is Paraja. It was translated into English. So remember these things about this particular novel, Paraja. And we have what is there in this novel, or what is there in the novels of Gopinath Mohanty. Gopinath Mohanty focuses on social issues. He focuses on the life and cultural practices of the pre-literate and the tribal people, the pain, the suffering, and the anguish, and the agony of the protagonists who are either from poor or middle economic strata of the society. We are into block 5. The novel is Paraja. I'm just telling you about, I'm just giving you an introduction about the novel, how the novel is originally written in Oriya and it was translated into English. The only novel which is there for you to study, which is translated. All the other novels are originally written in English. All the other novels prescribed for you in this particular paper. Reading the novel BEGE 108, all the other novels are originally written in English. Only this novel is written originally in Oriya and it is translated into English. See, just as the peculiarities or features of the novels of Gopinath Mohanty, as I have just told you, he writes about the cultural practices of the pre-literate or the tribal people. He talks about the social issues. He talks about the pain, the suffering, the anguish of his protagonists who, who belong to the poor or the middle class group of the society. So we have the story outline of Paraja first. The protagonist of the novel is Sukru Jani. Sukrujani. The setting is the Koraput district of Orissa. And the Parajas are the tribal people who belong to this district of Orissa, Koraput district of Orissa. And the protagonist, his name is Sukrujani. He is a widower. He has lost his wife. His wife is dead. He has two sons. One is Mandya and the other is Tikra. He has two daughters, Jilli and Billi. So he is a person belonging to the Paraja tribe. He actually lives by cutting wood from the forest and selling it. And all the sufferings that he had to undergo with all the 4 children and in the absence of his wife. Everything is described in detail in this particular novel. All the misfortunes that befall Sukrujani and his family are described in this particular novel. See, in spite of all the hardships that he faces, this man is happy. He lives happily with his children. His wife is long dead. But what happens is his happiness is short-lived. See, there are people who interfere into his happiness, who interfere into his household, who actually lead him to commit crimes. കുറേ ആൾക്കാർ ഫോറസ്റ്റ് ഗാർഡ് മുതൽ അങ്ങോട്ട് കുറേ ആൾക്കാർ, people belonging to the aristocratic family, people belonging to the high class family, they force him along with the forest guard to commit crimes. So the story or the whole issue is that when people who belong to the poor class families, when they are exploited to an extent which they cannot bear, ഇപ്പൊ സഹിക്കാൻ പറ്റാവുന്നതിൽ ഉപരിയായിട്ടുള്ള ഉപദ്രവങ്ങൾ നേരിടേണ്ടി വന്ന ഒരു കൂട്ടം ആളുകൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു കുടുംബം, അവർ ഏതറ്റം വരെ അവർ പോകും എന്നുള്ളതിന്റെ തെളിവുകളാണ് ഈ ഒരു നോവലിലൂടെ പറഞ്ഞു വരുന്നത്. See, those who are exploiting these people are actually literate. They are the people who are called civilized. They are the people who are called educated. They belong to the high society. But what they do is they actually exploit human beings. They actually torture human beings who are poor in the society. And these poor people, when they see the pain, the suffering, which goes beyond a point of bearance, what happens is they start committing crimes. So this is what the story is about. See, it is not a romantic story. It is not a tragic tale. It is neither having a theme of revenge or betrayal. It is a novel about existence. നിലനിൽപ്പിനെ ചൊല്ലിയുള്ള നോവലാണ്. എങ്ങനെയാണ് ജീവിതത്തിന്റെ യാഥാർത്ഥ്യങ്ങൾ, കഠിനമായിട്ടുള്ള യാഥാർത്ഥ്യങ്ങളെ നേരിട്ടുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു വ്യക്തി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു കുടുംബം എങ്ങനെയാണ് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകുന്നതെന്നും എങ്ങനെയാണ് അവർ സർവൈവ് ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നതെന്നും അത്യാവശ്യം പ്രത്യാശയോടെ കൂടെ തന്നെ ജീവിക്കാൻ അവർ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നതും സമൂഹം അവരെ ആ രീതിയിൽ ജീവിക്കാൻ അനുവദിക്കാത്തതിന്റെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ കൂടി ഈ നോവൽ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഹൗ all this leads to the crimes that they had to commit in order to survive. So the novel consists of 114 chapters. They portray the life and culture of the tribe Paraja. So as I told you, see, I had not ever come across a novel which is named after her whole tribe. This novel is named after a whole tribal community belonging to a district in Orissa, the Koraput district in Orissa. The Parajas is the name of the tribe. So the life and culture of the Paraja tribe is described in detail in this particular novel. See, the events in the novel begin in winter and they trace the misfortunes of Sukrujani, the protagonist, and his family through a span of a full year till next December. So the whole story narrates events of a whole year, a whole set of 12 months. And the reader, see, it enables the reader what happens when the whole story covers a long a period of 12 months or a year. People are able to analyze, they are able to understand the complete cycle of a year full of festivities, crops, and other activities which are peculiar to this tribal group. So everything is described in this particular novel. Chapter 1 begins with the introduction of the mountain pass known as Dharam Dwar, the gate of truth, at the foot of which lies the hamlet of Sarsupadhar in the eastern Ghats. So it is the place where the Paraja tribe can be located. And Sukrujani, he is living after his wife Sambhari's death. He is living along with his sons Mandya and Tikra and his daughters Jilli and Billi. See, chapter 2 discusses the lifestyle of the Parajas, how these men, they work in fields and forests, how women take care of the daily household activities, either washing or cooking. They also introduced, so the second chapter also introduces to us a forest guard. There is a forest guard who always has a gun on his shoulder, and he just loiters about on the banks of the stream with this gun on his shoulder. വെറുതെ ചുമ്മാ ഒരു തോക്കുമായിട്ട് അങ്ങോട്ടും ഇങ്ങോട്ടും നടന്ന് കളിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഫോറസ്റ്റ് ഗാർഡിനെയും കൂടി ഈ സെക്കൻഡ് ചാപ്റ്ററിൽ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. And he is someone who looks like a person from the civilized world. Unlike the people from the Paraja tribes, he is dressed in shirts and shorts. So he belongs to the civilized community. See, all the tribal people, they roam about half naked, but he is dressed in shirt and shorts. So he is a person of high authority in the eyes of the hill folk, in the eyes of these Parajas. He is a person who is to be worshipped, or who is to be treated well, given respect. And that is why people always, see, they provide him with gifts of various kinds in order to, let them bring wood from the forest. So Sukrujani is also a person who lives by cutting wood from the forest, and what does he do is he offers him several gifts such as 2 fat hens and 3 jackfruits. See, so that the guard does not complain about his stealing wood from the forest. ഇപ്പൊ കാട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് അല്ല മരം വിറകൊക്കെ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന ശേഖരിക്കുന്ന സുക്രൂജാനിന്റെ ജോലിയില് യാതൊരു തടസ്സവും ഇല്ലാതിരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒരു തരത്തില് കൈക്കൂലി കൊടുക്കുകയാണ്. എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് കൊടുക്കുന്നത്? 2 hens and 3 big jackfruits. So Sukrujani wants a favor from the forest guard, and that favor is granted to him, and the favor is to fell trees and to clear the jungle on the flat topped hill where 2 men of the Dom caste have already cleared 10 acres of land. So he wants to cut trees from the flat topped hill. That is why he bribes the forest guard, or gifts the forest guard, with 2 hens and 3 jackfruits. See, we have chapter 3 in which Sukrujani announces to his family that he has been granted the permission to cut trees, clear the trees of the flat topped hills. And after this family reunion or family union, the girls leave for the dormitories. Unmarried girls and boys, they live in separate respective dormitories in this particular community. കല്യാണം കഴിക്കാത്ത സ്ത്രീകളായാലും ആൺകുട്ടികളായാലും പെൺകുട്ടികളായാലും അവർ താമസിക്കുന്നത് സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ഡോർമെട്രീസിലാണ്. അവരുടെ വീട്ടിലല്ല താമസിക്കുന്നത്, സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ഡോർമെട്രീസിലാണ് താമസിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഫാമിലിയിൽ ഒരു ഗെറ്റ് ടുഗെദർ നടക്കുന്നു. അച്ഛൻ മക്കളോട് അച്ഛന് കിട്ടിയ അനുവാദത്തെ കുറിച്ച്, മരം മുറിക്കാനുള്ള അനുവാദത്തെ കുറിച്ച് സംസാരിക്കുന്നു. പിന്നീട് രണ്ട് പെൺകുട്ടികളും എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? they go and live or spend their night in the dormitory. The next chapter pinpoints two things, that is the hard work and labor of the tribals, how they have a hand to mouth existence. എത്രത്തോളം അവർ അധ്വാനിക്കുന്നു, അത്ര അധ്വാനിക്കുന്ന കിട്ടുന്ന കാശ് മുഴുവൻ ഭക്ഷണം കഴിക്കാനും മറ്റും ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നു. അതിനുള്ളത് മാത്രമേ അവർക്ക് അധ്വാനിച്ച് കിട്ടുന്നുള്ളൂ എന്നുള്ളതിന് അത്രയധികം പരിശ്രമിച്ചിട്ടാണ് അവർ ജീവിക്കുന്നത് എന്നുള്ള അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ് അടുത്ത ചാപ്റ്ററിൽ പറയുന്നത്, ചാപ്റ്റർ 4. But though they are very close to nature, they are in close communion to nature, they are not aware about the environmental hazards that might occur due to their acts of deforestation. ഒരുപാടധികം വൻതോതിൽ മരങ്ങൾ വെട്ടുന്നതിനെ ചൊല്ലി ഉണ്ടാവുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ, എൻവയറമെന്റിൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച്, എൻവയറമെന്റിന്റെ പ്രൊട്ടക്ഷനെ കുറിച്ചൊന്നും യാതൊരു അവയർനെസ് ഇല്ലാത്ത ഒരു കൂട്ടം ആളുകളാണ് ഈ പരജാസ് എന്നുള്ളത് എന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കുക. they simply want to have a hand to mouth existence. For that they go and they cut trees from the nearby forest. They sell it and lead their living. They have a hand to mouth existence. They are ignorant of the environmental problems that may arise due to this particular large scale massive cutting of trees. In the 5th chapter, the authority of the forest guard is being highlighted. So he is someone who has the authoritative power to torture in order to interfere into the lives of any people in the village. That kind of an authority he has been unknowingly given by the villagers, by the tribal people. That is why he actually bullies Jilli. Jilli is the daughter of Sukrujani. He bullies Jilli, who is actually surprised and shocked, and she is not able to express her resentment. She is unhappy about it. She does not like the way this man, the forest guard, treats her. And he indirectly threatens the two girls, Jilli and Billy, by entering their house in the absence of their father. So when their father is not around, he enters their house and tries to bully Jilli, one of the daughters of Sukrujani. In the next chapter, we have Kau Paraja. The second chapter introduces us to another character in the story and in the tribal's life, the headman's Goti, who is Kau Paraja. It is he who carries the message of forest guard to Sukrujani. Kau Paraja he is acting like a messenger who carries messages from forest guard to Sukrujani. The forest guard desires Jilli. He wants to have physical relationship with Jilli, and that is why he asks Sukrujani's permission by sending the messenger Kau Paraja to him. But the father obviously refuses the offer. He does not like this forest guard and he refuses the offer. He doesn't want his daughter to be given away to the forest guard. In the 7th chapter, there is a clear description of the exploitation of the poor people, the ignorant and the illiterate people in the hands of the powerful people. The powerful people are people like the forest guard. the chapter also shows us that the civilized people capitalize on the simplicity and illiteracy of the tribal folk. The forest guard, he returns after a month with officials who question Sukrujani about clearing the patch of land for which he had already sought permission from the forest guard. So when Sukrujani does not like for the forest guard who is interested in his daughter, what does the forest guard do? He actually brings in some officials with him, and these officials, they question him about the large scale cutting of trees that Sukrujani had done. He had actually bribed the forest guard in order to cut those trees in large numbers. But now the officials are questioning him. They are trying to scare him about his work. The forest guard denies that he had given permission. Evidences are recorded, and as each tribal and non-tribal wishes to save himself, falsehood is recorded with great conviction. So all the tribal people, they are so innocent, they are afraid of the officials, they are afraid of the forest guard. That is why all of them, they speak against Sukrujani. And that is why he is terrified by all the paperwork that is going on. And the verdict is that Sukrujani is guilty. He is found guilty of cutting down large number of trees, and he had caused a loss of a few score of rupees to the Raja, and he must pay for his crime. So whatever amount of number of trees he had cut from the Raja's property, he had to pay a fine of a certain amount of rupees to the Raja, because he had cut a large scale of trees, trees in large scale. He had to give fine to the Raja. So he must pay for his crime. In the next chapter, the misery of the family is described. The people in the village ask Sukrujani to raise a loan from the money lender. So there is a money lender who gives loan to the innocent tribal people. The money lender is named Ram Bisoi. And see, while lending him money, the person who borrows money has to become a goti to the money lender. That is bounded laborer. So if Sukrujani accepts some amount of money or borrows money from Ram Bisoi, he had to act as a bonded laborer to Ram Bisoi. ഇപ്പോൾ രാം ബിസോയുടെ എന്താ പറയുക സ്ലേവ് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ രാം ബിസോയി പറയുന്ന എല്ലാ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളും പൈസയൊന്നും വാങ്ങാതെ ചെയ്തു കൊടുക്കണം. അഹോരാത്രം അധ്വാനിച്ച് വേണം ഈ ലോണ് വീട്ടാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ ലോണായിട്ട് കടമായിട്ട് ഈ മണി ലെൻഡറിൽ നിന്ന് രാം ബിസോയിൽ നിന്ന് പണം വാങ്ങുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് എന്താണ്? ഹി ഹാഡ് ടു വർക്ക് ആസ് എ ബോണ്ടഡ് ലേബറർ. So Sukrujani is not ready to exchange his shelter and freedom, as he has never questioned the legality of his actions and has not realized that he is not the owner of the land he had been tilling as his own. So he doesn't wish to succumb to the idea of borrowing money from Ram Bisoi. So he is fully in despair and misery. He doesn't know how to pay the fine which he had to pay on behalf of his cutting large amount of trees from the Raja's property. See, the next day, he is aware that he has no other choice but to accept the advice of going to the money lender and borrowing some amount of money. And that is why he goes to the money lender. He mortgages himself as a bonded laborer to Sahukar Ramachandra Bisoi. He borrows money and the way he is treated after he borrows money. Say a loan of 50 rupees is raised, an agreement signed and smeared with thumb impressions, and a deed which Sukrujani does not understand a word. So there is a deed which is made, and he had to pay an amount of 50 rupees. He had to sign an agreement with his thumb impression. So they are uneducated. That is why thumb impression is taken. See, chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15 tell us about the bargain between the forest guard, Naika, and others who make a part payment to the forest guard with the money raised by Sukrujani, who puts himself and his son's freedom at stake, and they distribute the rest of the money among themselves. So, there is a bargain between forest guard, Naika, and others. So, all of them, they share the money that they have raised by placing a fine upon Sukrujani. ഇപ്പൊ സുക്രുജാനി എന്താണ് ചെയ്തത്? 50 രൂപയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് സ്വയം പണയപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് ബോണ്ടഡ് ലേബറർ ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ആ കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടുണ്ടാക്കിയ 50 രൂപ ഫോറസ്റ്റ് ഗാർഡ് നയിക്കുകയും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ മറ്റാൾക്കാരും കൂടി ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്തെടുക്കുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So the cloud that passes over Sukrujani's family brings tears, sorrows, and unhappiness, but saves him from being sent to jail. So he is somehow able to rescue himself by borrowing 50 rupees from Sakukar Ramachandra Biswai. See now, Sukrujani and Tikra have to work as ghotis for the money lender Ram Biswai, who lives 8 miles away from Sarsupadhar. Sarsupadhar എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അവരുടെ ജന്മനാടാണ്. അപ്പൊ 8 മൈൽ അകലെ താമസിക്കുന്ന രാം ബിസോയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഫുൾ ടൈം ബോണ്ടഡ് ലേബറേഴ്സ് ആയിട്ടാണ് സുക്രുവിനും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ടിക്ര എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സുക്രുജാനിയുടെ മകനും വർക്ക് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരുന്നത്. So all these things are described in the novel. So chapter 16 to 19 takes us back to the life of the Paraja tribe, to the Sarsupadar village, and to Sukrujani's family members who left behind. So Sukrujani and Tikra, they work for the money lender Ram Biswai 8 miles away from their home. And and who are the people, the family members left behind? The 2 daughters and Mandiya Jani. Mandiya Jani is the son of Sukrujani. So Mandiya Jani and his 2 sisters are left behind. Mandiya Jani takes care of the house and the fields. He intends to get Jilli married to Khajodi, who is his sister's friend. But for that he has to pay a bride price, and he wants to offer the bride price only after the harvest. So, see, just as in all our communities, see this dowry system is there. So here again, there is a bride price which this man, Mandiya Jani, has to offer in order to marry away his sister Jilli to Khajodi. Khajodi is the friend of his sister. So Mandiya wants to marry her off only after the bride price is arranged, and that will be arranged only after the harvest. So he dreams of getting his daughter married to Khajodi, but Sukrujani does not. See, Sukrujani also approves of this match. So the father also likes this match between Jilli and Khajodi. So he finds Khajodi an apt husband for his daughter. See, then Mandiya plans to brew liquor and in exchange get laborers to reap paddy for them. He suggests to his sisters to collect mahua flowers and then in return ask for combs. See, all the different types of jobs these people belonging to the Paraja community, they undertake in order to have a decent living. Everything is being described here. See, Mandiya Jani also involves in an illegal act of brewing liquor And the daughters grow chili in order to earn money by selling them. മുളകൊക്കെ നട്ട് വളർത്തി വിൽപ്പന ചെയ്തിട്ട് ജീവിക്കാനാണ് ഡോട്ടേഴ്സിന്റെ തീരുമാനം. And Mandya Jani is someone who is brewing liquor illegally without permission, without legal acceptance. So in chapter 20 and 21, the growth of friendship between Mandya and Kajodi and Jilli and Bhagla are described. Chapter 22 takes us to the homestead of the money lender and the lives of the goatees where Tikra works. So chapter 22 takes us to the place where Sukru Jani and his son, one of his sons, work as goatees. Just a second. So chapter 22 talks about the life of suffering which the father and the son, one of the sons, have to undergo at Ram Bisoi's place. See, the girls who work there look at Tikra with great admiration and interest. Tikra and the girls work and sing together, and Sukru Jani asks for leave, but he is refused. He wants to go back and visit his daughters and one of the sons there, but he is refused leave. He does not get the permission to go on leave to visit his daughters. See, in the next chapter is a description of the market day at Padagod, which is a weekly market that takes place on Wednesday. See, on this day, women wear brightest clothes and they wear their gaudiest beads, all the ornaments they wear. And it is a meeting place for friends and exchanging gossips. So, the cultural festivities of the Paraja tribe is described in this particular chapter, chapter 23. The chapter following this is about the homecoming of Sukru Jani. He comes back home. He has returned at the last moment for the harvest festival. So it was the harvest festival which was about to arrive, and he comes back home right at the last moment of the harvest festival. See, in chapter 25 and 26, the harvest festival is described in detail. How, see, men have to go to collect wood for the bonfire, and young women, they are busy cleaning and painting the house. So this is a season of festivities which is described in this particular chapter. How everything is arranged well for the festival. The brightest of bangles are worn by the girls. The best of the saris are worn by the girls. See, they go for beautification, makeup. So the story is about this particular chapter talks about how they involve themselves completely into the festivities of their native place. So there are dances. Hello, sister. Hello. See, I think we should stop for today. Can I continue tomorrow, sister? Hello? See, I shall continue. Okay, I shall continue the whole novel in the next class. Maybe on next Sunday, you have a session on 108.
Okay, ma'am.
കാലാവസ്ഥ മോശമായി വരികയാണ്, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ്. അടുത്ത ദിവസം അടുത്ത സാറ്റർഡേ നമുക്ക് ഇത് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. So we have 2 more books plus the story of Paraja have to be told.